LC gang, welcome back to the Lifestyle Chats platform. It's your host Ashley. I'm so excited to be back on Small Business Mondays because we are changing it up over here and we're going to be talking branding and communications. And we have a very interesting guest when it comes to this topic. But before I get to our gentleman, I'd love to implore you guys to subscribe and to like, and don't forget to tell us if these are conversations that you enjoy having. So today we have Ibrahim, and he is in the branding and communication space. Right. But I'll allow him to introduce himself because I feel like it's better to hear from you exactly what you do in the space. So please.
Well, Ashley, first of all, it's a pleasure being here. I've been following your videos on YouTube and also on Instagram. And thank you for reaching out to me because I love people that tell African stories. I love people that support other businesses to be able to articulate what they want to do in terms of their vision, because I feel that is what is lacking. And oh, by the way, congratulations upon your event with Maureen.
Thank you.
It was one
Thank
of
you
the
very
best.
much.
I mean, I was following on the internet and it was so amazing. And kudos to you. I heard it's your first event.
Yes, it is.
How did it go?
It went amazing. I exceeded our expectations. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. And we're looking forward to the next one.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
So where do I start from? There's the question of who you are is quite a very interesting one because I don't know how to always approach it. But I'm Ibrahim Batambuzze. Most people call me Bata, short for my surname.
Okay.
So it's like butter, like the shoes, BATA, bread and butter. Yeah, but I'm a technologist, I'm a lawyer, and also a communications advisor. And this goes way back in time. And jokingly, my father used to say, if I don't end up being a writer or journalist, I would be a lawyer and or probably a technologist. And now I'm the three.
I've never heard of a technologist. I actually don't know what that means.
So I love technology.
Okay.
And I love playing around with computers. I love playing around with trends in terms of technology. And also it goes back to the fact that I love conversations where Africa is underrepresented. So
tech is one of those ones.
Yeah, technology is one of those. I've been in spaces where we used to talk about artificial intelligence, even before this apocalypse started. And we were talking about key things around involvement of women in technology, because when it comes to, there is a term that now they call online gender-based violence.
Yes.
And all crimes that are a result of technology. So we're trying to create awareness about that. And it was quite an interesting space. And I would say I love it so far. And also coupled with the fact that I love online media. I live and breathe online media. Yeah, I've not been in the limelight for quite some time.
Okay.
Because most of the time I've been a manager. And I believe managers give young people the space to express themselves. I don't need to be in the media.
Yeah.
As long as my team is doing the work.
Yes.
Let them be. So briefly, that's who I am.
That's who you are. Okay, well, Ibrahim, welcome to the Lifestyle Chats platform.
Pleasure to be here.
Excited to have you here. And you've spoken about media and having a passion for media. I've seen your TikToks. In case anyone else is wondering, I've seen your TikToks. I love your educative content. And you're, outside of it being educational, it's very jestful in its manner. I feel like when you're educating people with your branding and communications, it's funny, it's poking, but like still educating the person on what they need to be doing. So how did you get into this? How did you get into branding and communications? Was this a passion of yours? You said you're a lawyer. So I think that's already making us ask some questions. How did we get here?
So it goes back to my third year in law school. I'd made up my mind. Legal practice wasn't meant for me. And because I am someone who is constantly on the move.
Are you that creative that they always told, you can speak, you can write, you can say good English, you can be a lawyer?
So exactly, like most of us, you get some good grades at university. So at high school, and they say, no, this is the course you should be doing.
Same.
So I was like, okay, fine. I went and did the course, but I started getting exposed because by then I was writing articles in newspapers.
Okay.
There was a newspaper called Black Monday. It used to talk about corruption across the country.
Okay.
And I think in second year, third year, I was an editor-in-chief.
When was your second year?
I was like...
Was I born then?
You were, but it was, I think it was 2013, 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
when I was still at UC. So by then I started networking a lot with individuals. I got a couple of people that noticed me, and they were curious to learn more about me because I used to speak in conferences and workshops. So they felt like probably I could be able to add some value to the room. And that's when now everything started shifting.
Started to flow together. Yeah.
And I'm so blessed that even the people I was looking up to at university, in law school actually, they were all pivoting into new careers. In human rights, there was one of the brilliant photographers in Uganda. He's now silent. He's called Onyait Odeke.
Okay.
And he used to work at MT now, but he was one of the key people that I loved so much. And he taught me to always follow what I've wanted. And these guys were able to also give me a platform to be able to express myself. I was part of the debate club, human rights club. So I kept all these things were just forming.
They're all connecting, yes.
To what I wanted to be. And as they say, the rest is history. So after school, I made it a point to... I worked for one of the most vibrant youth organizations in the country. And I started teaching myself communications because you have a degree, you're in a territory you don't know much. I mean, we were in a time whereby if they see you having a huge Twitter following, you're automatically a communications officer.
Hey.
We lived in a time whereby if they see you speaking some good English,
you're definitely a communication person.
You're a PR person.
Yes, yes.
So when I went to the ground, it was actually very different. I'm like, I need to pull up my socks. I need to roll my sleeves up and just get to what is required. So that's when I ended up taking a lot of courses online, which opened me up to a whole new world of communications itself in general, because most of the things that I learned then were actually helped me a lot to understand how to be able to get into this field compared to what others were doing. And why that was very helpful to me is that it made me realize that most people actually are not getting the right information in universities. If they are getting anyway, is that
it's not relevant.
It's outdated. And it's actually made me get a very huge advantage. And that's why I was able to rise so fast, so easily in all these other different roles.
Because you took the time to educate yourself and you took the time to get relevant information.
Exactly.
Because I'll say the TikTok videos that we see of you outside of them just being informative, it's a different type of informative. It's not the everyday catchphrases that we've been hearing when it comes to branding. The whole get a logo, you know, and I'm not saying that's wrong information. I'm just saying we need, there's much more to these things than we are taught. And so the fact that you're talking about the nitty-gritties, the everyday things that people actually practically are engaging with when it comes to their businesses, in your communication series, it shows that you're putting the work to make sure that you're informed when it comes to these things. So TikTok has just been your vehicle currently.
For now.
This.
So there is something they call compound effects. Like the things that you continue doing repeatedly all your life, you become a master at it. I'm not saying I'm a master at all the things that I do, because learning never stops. When you think like you have arrived and you stop learning, that's
the death of
things start going downhill. And so why I started that TikTok actually recently was because I joined TikTok recently and I was seeing a lot of information. But I'm like, wait a minute, there is actually something lacking here. Why? If there is information, it's gatekeeping. And if there is also information, there are people just giving out these so-called master classes and charging people.
And charging people. They're not giving us
and I'm like, you know what? No, let me try to speak out and be able to give this information, because when I was starting out in my career, I got a chance to, all the mentors that trained me to be who I am today, never charged me for anything. So I was like, let me try to put everything in the right way. Let's try to go back to the basics and make people understand what is communications, what is PR, because that's what I am. That's who I am. So I started this trying to talk about branding, communications, from my experience of trying to be able to understand what works, what doesn't work, why you should be different.
Yeah.
And I have been overwhelmed with the responses I've been receiving in my inboxes, because people are asking me, people are saying, wait a minute, I didn't know this.
I didn't know this about business.
And I have been doing, people are telling me I've been doing events, but I didn't know this is how things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And this is information people are not seeing anywhere on the internet.
That's true.
And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. I was just doing my videos. And one thing that has actually helped me, which is a big aspect of branding and communication, is to be authentic. I had the option to be able to do things the way others are doing it, but I'm like, that is actually not me. Yeah. I want to be in a space where I'm actually expressing myself in a way that I understand myself. So that
but you're still communicating
I am
the point
still
across.
Giving out the message, and which one of the key things that people don't actually realize. Like, if you don't be yourself, you actually
always come across as there's something people always sense about.
People actually see it, and before you know it, it's like you're not growing. Like they don't refer to you. And I started doing this because I was just giving out free information. I was even not looking for any monetary benefits out of it. But let me tell you, a director of a big school was even watching my videos recently.
Oh.
I was invited to be a guest speaker at their PTA meeting, and I didn't even know I was going to be there.
Yeah.
And this is he was even telling me, like, they were looking for someone who's giving out this information, but they were not seeing any person to do that.
True.
And that for me is, I would say, kind of validation for the kind of work that I do, because I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I'm actually even paid, so I don't need to be doing all this. If it's free, I mean, what do I lose?
Yeah.
I mean, if people are getting information, young people are telling me that I didn't know this, can you mentor me? I mean, for me, that is
everything that you get.
Yeah, so let's see how that goes.
Okay, right. So we're talking branding here, right? And as a marketing person, one of my favorite topics I remember was branding, because branding is such an oyster to do so much. I feel like it's one of those things that is very vital, but played with right, can transform so many things. So when a business has a big vision and they're trying to create a clear and compelling voice in terms of their branding, what are some of the things that you would say like top three things that, or elements that you would tell them to look out for when it comes to creating a compelling brand voice or picture? Because sometimes it could be a voice, sometimes it could be a picture, how it's coming out for them in terms of their branding. Yeah.
I think point blank, knowing your audience is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Why is that I've seen very many businesses, individuals and people that make a big mistake of going into something not knowing who their customer is. If you don't understand that right from the start, you've made a very huge mistake. And before you know it, you'll think you've gone 5 steps forward. But that's 11 steps backwards.
Yeah.
And why is the target audience very important? Because it makes it easy for the people who are looking for you to see you. And one of the things that we fail to do, and here's something that you need to do, especially for businesses that are starting out. You need to do a persona test. A persona test is understanding who your target audience is. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who you're targeting. What do they do when they wake up? What's the first thing they do? How do they get out of
What
bed?
do they look like?
Exactly.
What is their demographic?
Where do they stay?
Yes.
How do they consume content, for example?
Yeah.
Which platforms are they on? If they're in a lunch break, what are they doing?
I'm so sorry to cut you off. Have you heard of CIM, Chartered Institute of Marketing? I did CIM level 4, and actually in the projects they ask you to create a buyer persona. They teach you you have to create a persona, like put a face to it. What age are they? What do they look like? Are they married? Are they not? Do they have kids? How many kids do they usually tend to have? Are they from a middle income family? Are they not? That's so true. You need to put a face to your buyer.
Exactly. And that is, you've actually answered my question. You've actually answered your question.
Really?
Because if you understand that, the rest just fall into place.
Yeah.
And sadly, most people don't follow that procedure. I've seen it across.
They look at themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they just wake up, they say, I have my product, let's push it.
Yeah.
They go on Twitter, they go on
Instagram,
Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and you're like, you're even starting. You don't even have the capacity to be in all these platforms. Why don't you first focus on where your customer is, reach them, and see what is working and what you need to do. If this is not working, try out a new route.
Pivot,
You don't have to be so pragmatic that you have to stay in this space if like you're so hell-bent in being a particular space. But no, it doesn't work like that. Marketing is something which needs to be a constant. When you wake up and you see that this is not working, move with a different flow of whatever is working.
Yeah.
And when you're able to do that, you can be able to make your brand easily understandable for the people that you're targeting. And for me, that is
always clearly communicated to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you have that as part of the biggest part of your brand strategy and vision, it becomes very, very easy for you. And if you understand that from the start, that's where you could be able to know that I need to do this right from point zero.
Yeah.
And we could all say that go to social media. We could all say that have this kind of colors, do this, have this logo from ChatGPT and all these things. But all that is just, anyway, I'll excuse my French for this show. But that's, if you get what I'm trying to say.
I get your drift. Yeah. I get your drift.
So what should businesses and people do?
Yeah.
First of all, understand who your target audience is.
Yeah.
When you understand who your target audience is, then go to follow them, what they do. Then when you understand what they do, then try to tailor your communication
to them.
You don't need to be everywhere. We are in 2024, whereby people's attention is just like 2 microseconds.
Sure.
You're going to be on Twitter and people are going to be moving on. Before you know it, there is another crisis happening in the country. People have moved on.
No one is
You're lost in
anymore.
You're lost in trying to communicate something.
Yeah.
And you need to be very, very strategic. When you understand your audience, then be very, very strategic. There's some things that you need to be doing. So, for example, you're selling products and you know that your target audiences use, like, they're in offices, they're on their emails. Try out email marketing so that you're trying to reach them straight to the point, so that you do not waste a lot of time trying to be everywhere. You end up being nowhere. That's the whole point.
And also people who you've talked about being on every social media platform. I feel like people don't understand different social media platforms are for different, I'm not saying multiple people cut across, of course, but most of the time we have 2 primaries. For example, if you're targeting my age mates, you might be targeting someone who's in Instagram and Snapchat. My dad was recently telling me, I don't know if you saw the Levis concert that happened here. And of course, on the internet, it was everywhere after, the aftermath of everything that happened. And he's telling me, how did they market that event? I've never seen like a billboard about your Levis. And I told him that was all on Snapchat. And he's like, Snapchat? And I'm like, you see, you have to know your target audience, because for us now, people who want to go for your Levis are on Snapchat.
Exactly.
They're not going to be on Facebook. You're not going to find them on Facebook.
That was actually a very incredible way of marketing, because most people got shocked, got even to find out when the guy was here.
Yes.
But people knew.
We knew.
And that Serena was filled up with the people that actually had to be there. You're like, that is actually very impressive. And that is why the marketing team understood where the target audience is. So that they reached them. And they were not, it was not going to be something at Namboli. In Namboli. So they had
so there was no need to go to Facebook. There was no need to go to, and that's not to say, of course, that on Facebook they're not going to be there. But we're saying that that's not the primary audience. And what you're looking for is to tailor your voice to exactly what you are seeking. And when you, I feel like also that might come into niche marketing, let me say, because when you niche, you're segmenting. Actually, let me not even say niche, segment marketing. You need to always have a segment. A segment has various factors you could put into it.
Absolutely.
It could be about whatever it is. It could be demographic. It could be age, gender, whatever it is. But you need to segment, because when you segment, you can tailor best your marketing campaign towards the right people. So I think that's like something that I've picked out of all of this. So it also comes into branding, because if you're branding yourself and you're saying that you do eyewear for people, but then you're branding yourself as if someone who does shades for everyone. If you speak to everyone, then you speak to no one.
Do you speak to no one? Absolutely, I agree. And it also goes back to the point of branding. We don't put much effort in the branding aspect itself. And why do I say that? It's like you have this whole target market of your customers being, for example, in Kololo. You're marketing it like it's for someone in Katwe. What I'm trying to say. It's like you need to understand who is in Kololo, for example.
And who is in Katwe.
I mean, someone in Katwe might be very comfortable with CPS FM. Someone in Kololo might be comfortable with another different way of marketing. So how do you tailor your brand to actually be number one? So
also you're talking about communication channels must fit the brand that you're trying to create. The branding that you're trying to create.
And when we're even talking about branding, one of the key things is that branding also itself requires investment. I know, like, sometimes you have...
Say it again for the small businesses.
Branding requires investment. You don't wake up one day and you feel like you have a logo, and for you think that's a brand. A brand must tell your story. If someone looks at your logo or what you do, they should be able to understand what you do in less than 5 seconds. If you look at most brands, and it's so sad, like, we undermine branding. I look at, there's a whole story of understanding what your brand is that many people, organizations and companies and businesses in Uganda don't understand. Let me give you an example. I think in Uganda there are like the brand studio, there is Admire. If you sit down with these people and you tell them, this is my brand, it sells beauty products. I want you to be able to create something for me. There is a whole process that they put into that goes brand into discovery, brand storytelling, all this kind of creating the content, the copywriting. And those are some of the key things we don't appreciate. All these things that you see, for example, Nike and all these different international brands. I'm not saying you need to have that budget, because those guys have, like, Coca-Cola's budget. Marketing has the biggest budget across the whole spectrum.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, but because they know the returns and the conversions you get when you have your brand. Actually,
that makes so much sense, because when we're talking about logos and having stories, I'm sure everyone has heard of Amazon and the arrow pointing to the A, or the Nike, the tick, just do it. All of those things, you know, as marketers, we know this. Marketing is about selling a story. It's not about, consumers rarely buy because they need a product. That's one of the back ends. If you're a marketer, you know this. We buy stories, we buy emotions, we buy it's the ethos usually that we speak to. We buy being a part of something. And so if you're, what we'll take from this is, when it comes to the elements, is knowing your audience and being able to make them buy into what you're saying, because they're already your audience. So now they need to buy into this. This reflects who I am as an audience member. And so I want to buy into this product, because when you've understood your target market, it means you're going to tailor it to exactly what they already need. And all now they need to do is cash out. And when you create a story using your brand that already speaks to the things that they need to be spoken to, then it becomes much easier. Because remember, branding is just another part of selling. It's just a glossy part of selling.
So when it comes to selling, actually, you've talked about something very, very fundamental. Look at all these brands that people love. They don't show you the products. They show you what you get out of that product.
Yes, the experience.
Red Bull doesn't sell energy drinks. On its social media is just selling adventure. And someone who can actually do what normal people can't do. And that's why they're building a cult.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola is selling you something very different. They don't post even about Coke.
They don't.
They post about that feeling you get out of being associated with
cars.
Coke.
They don't post anything about the sports cars. It's about when you're driving this car and then you're going to pass by the road.
Yes. So for us here, we are like, you have your product. It's a lotion. That's what you want to put in for everyone to see. Like that's what you want people to have in their faces. And I think I don't know if I'm just trying to also overthink, but from my understanding of brands like CJ's in Uganda and across East Africa, when you look at CJ's, the setup they're selling you is family. Family and being with people around you. Walk into any CJ's branch.
What you see.
That's what you see. And how are they doing it? When you enter, they have menus which are actually family oriented or people oriented.
True.
When you enter
alcohol,
CJ's, they have charging points. They want you to be off your phone and eat and be with people around you. This is just my observation. But you see things that make people get to you constantly. And you see why people continue going to CJ's.
I see.
Is because of that whole thing they're selling, that you need to be as one.
Part of the
You're
community.
never alone.
Yes.
And that is why they're so hell-bent on innovation, and they put a lot of effort in branding and marketing. And when you do that, you create a community. When you create a community, there is conversion because people continue getting back to you because they want to belong. They are looking for a sense of belonging.
No, but we're just looking for a sense of belonging. But anyway, we could go all on and on when it comes to this topic because branding is such an interesting topic.
You need to have that authenticity and understanding that people are coming back to me because of this. Then the third would be, what do you feel has not worked for you? And when you have all these kind of questions for the start, you're trying to first of all understand where they're coming from. Because marketing itself, marketing and the online media right now is the most dynamic and flexible environment that we have. Things that, I mean, it's fast-paced. I mean, you have, and you never know, another social media platform might mushroom the next day and people are even moving there. But I think the biggest part is to understand what has worked, what is working still, and what hasn't worked. So that you first of all be self-aware about your brand. Then that could be able to direct the next conversation of saying, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. And now let's start back from the scratch, Nara Smith style. So that people understand that yes, this is what has happened. But there is actually room for improvement. There is actually room for you to reinvent yourself. Nobody is going to stop you from being who you are. You need to constantly be able to start.
True, and people don't know the power of reinvention. People don't understand that a lot of brands that we have today reinvented themselves. They morphed into something. I was reading about the history of Kellogg's. So when you look at the Kellogg's, they were something completely different. What they were doing before is not what we know them for today. But they have morphed, they have changed who they are, and that's a forgotten part of your story, because at the end of the day, you're selling a story, or even sometimes make your failure about your make your failure part of your story. You know, branding it's just about how you tell the story.
Branding also, it's about being understanding that you can also be vulnerable. Let me tell you one thing. There was a time I was working for an organization, and we used to write, you know, it's the end of year, every organization is writing about what we achieved, everything, all these colorful things. We did the switch. We wrote about what we failed to do that year. People came running, asking, how can we help?
Really?
And because of that, we actually got one of our biggest funding after that.
Really?
Because you did a switch whereby everyone is saying, yes, we went to this community.
We were so great.
And you're like, come on, like this is what everyone is doing.
Yeah.
The switch up was one of our biggest moments. You know, all these words of encouragement that we even got from donors and funders, they were actually concerned and sent us emails asking, what more do you need?
What?
Because they knew we were good at what we were doing.
Yeah.
But it was just even a marketing stunt. Yeah. Like people knew, when people know that they are accustomed to this kind of reasoning and you do something directly opposite for the good,
yes,
people continue getting back to you.
Yeah,
I mean,
shake it up.
Shake it up one time.
Yeah.
Just do you.
Yeah.
And that also goes back to being authentic and also showing people that, hey, I'm also human. Sometimes we mess up, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop. And that is what we're even telling people. Like we are also so much eager to take on the next year because we have learned our lessons and we don't, what defines us is not to stop.
To keep going.
What defines us is to learn from the mistakes we are making and going forward. And that is what makes us better.
So what we have taken from this question is that you're saying that failure should not be, first of all, the end all be all.
Yeah.
It should be, so how do we come back from this? Because failure is part of the journey. Never, if anything, it's a testament to the fact that you're here and you can make it. And two, it's propelling you to be more creative in your process. It's allowing you to probe yourself. Maybe you need to go back to the drawing board. Maybe you need to use that and use it to catapult you into a different direction. And I think this is all very, very brilliant. And before we close out, I just wanted you to briefly talk about mentorship in this direction, branding and communications. This is a very interesting topic that a lot of us would love. It seems easy, but it's not easy. And when we are trying to hone those skills in young people or people who are already doing this and need their skills to be honed, or they need someone to advise them when it comes to these things, you and I had spoken about a mentorship program. Could you briefly just tell the people about that, just so that they can know that this is something that you intend on giving back to the community?
I'll just tell you why I'm doing it. I think for me it's personal. Why? I'm a lawyer by profession, so I did a complete career shift into development communications, PR and marketing. What I have achieved right now in my career is because I was supported by people that actually took me on when I had nothing. And that is point number one. Two is because I have been a recruiter for some time. And I have faced a challenge in getting young people with employable skills. Let me tell you, I have interviewed people with masters. And when they come into the room, you have these interviews.
You have all these degrees.
And they're like, where did we go wrong? And you keep on asking all these questions. But right now, I'm asking myself, what if the issue is within? What if we are not doing enough to mentor young people, to actually provide a lot of resources for them to be able to navigate? Because, especially for our field, because it is very, very versatile. It's fast-paced. It's moving. For everything that has succeeded for me, I didn't learn it in school. I learned it from experience. From what is happening on ground, which sadly, young people are not receiving. And that makes it a very important aspect for us to take a step back and ask ourselves, how can we do better? Because we are going to continue asking ourselves, where is that person? Where is that Ashley? But we're not getting there.
There,
But one thing that I believe is that, one, the system has failed young people. And I'll even say this on record, but even the people heading the system, their children are not in this system.
Sure.
And I hope I won't be gotten by a drone here. But the point here is that I think there is still a very huge opportunity, not to do the blame game, but to do your part.
To do our part.
And for me, this is part of what the field I'm in, PR and communications, is me doing my part. And that is why in 2025, I'm starting a mentorship program. And I'm speaking to a couple of my colleagues to be able to chip in and step in and say, I can be able to take on this session. I can be able to do this. So that when 2025 ends, God willing, we have this whole pool. It may even be like not even 1,000, but they have the right employable skills, so that if anyone is looking for a communications
person, that's the person you're looking for, we have created them.
The person is here. Just give them the opportunity. I know that sometimes people take these opportunities for granted. They may not be able to take everything the way you want it to be. But as long as you play your part, out of 100, even if they're 50, that's okay.
That's okay.
And that's enough for people to understand that this is how young people need to be, and this is how we need to support them to navigate this whole space, because we are all who we are because there is someone that helped you at some point. So there is no need for you to get kept. Just give back to people.
That's so true. That's so true. Ibrahim, thank you so much. This has been such an interesting session. I have a passion for marketing, so of course this has been more than interesting and such a learning experience. But I'm sure so many people that have stayed till the very end of this video have learned so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. And if you could kindly let people know your socials, just where we can find you before we close out the video.
Right now you can just follow me on TikTok. I have a page called Coms by Bata.
Coms by Bata.
Yeah, Bata like the shoes. BATA.
Okay.
That's where I share some of the tips and the resources for anyone that is trying to navigate this field of communications. My website is launching very soon, and that's where it's going to be the links to the surveys and also the mentorship courses that I'm trying to be speaking to my people around to help me out and also all these kinds of information around communications, PR and marketing. And most of this information is going to be actually very free for people, because we lose nothing when you try to be available for other people to get all this information. So that's where you can find me.
All right, thank you so much. If you have finished this video, we love you. Thank you for coming to the LC Gang, and we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to follow us on our socials at Lifestyle Chats on Instagram and across different platforms, and Bill Beauty UG and Bill Beauty Bazaar, because we are proudly sponsored by the Bill Beauty app. I'll see you guys next time. It's been Ashley.
Ibrahim.
See you guys next time. Bye.